Lian Li claims that this is an ITX case. Hey, what's going on YouTube? I'm Danny and this is Danny's Tech Channel. If you're new to the channel, if it's your first time here, I frequently do videos about hardware reviews, PC builds, and how-to videos also. But like I said in the intro, this is an ITX case, and actually I guess I better open it up so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. As you can see, the case is not really much smaller than the box that it was in. It's actually quite large for an ITX case. This is the Lian Li O11 Dynamic Mini. Like I said, it's an ITX case. It adds to the O11 Dynamic series case, and they're redefining modularity in this one. It's similar to the standard O11D, but it's smaller. It supports mini ITX, micro ATX, ATX, and eATX size motherboards. It can hold up to 9 fans and it's made out of aluminum and glass. The biggest selling point of the case is the modularity. The idea behind it is that you can fit any size motherboard in this thing, and the smaller the motherboard you go, the better support you have for water cooling. This whole thing's idea is water cooling. In fact, today, my build is not gonna be with water cooling in a custom loop per se. I am gonna use an AIO in this, but in the future, I would love to be doing a custom cooled loop with this thing, and actually that'll be my first one ever. So if you haven't subscribed already, do so below. That way you can check it out when I decide to make that happen. But I'll flip it around here and let you see the back. You can actually set this panel. This panel is removable completely, the entire back panel here. And you can move it down and add pieces to this and give yourself more or less slots for your PCI. This back panel can run in a 3-slot, a 5-slot, or a 7-slot orientation. And obviously the bigger the motherboard you go, the less water cooling support you'll have. Like I said, a big part of this case is the water cooling, and lots of companies like EK Waterblock, Bits Power, and Primo Chill have already made parts for this case specifically. But it's a pretty simple setup to take this thing apart. You just take these 2 top screws, slide your plate off, and then that just comes right up. And that's a metal, like aluminum style top plate. And then all you have to do is pull up on this glass and it comes on like a slider system. So the neat thing about taking this thing apart is that once you take your glass off, you can access the entire thing. I mean, I've never seen a case so easy to build in. I've done a couple builds in the O11 Dynamic, the standard size one, so I'm imagining that this is gonna be the exact same way. But what I'm gonna do is put it all together and then I'll give you final notes on it, anything that I found that was difficult or that you may run into if you buy the case. But let's talk about the parts real quick because you're always interested in what I have to put in here. First thing up is the processor. For this build, I decided to change things up a bit. I've been doing a lot of AMD stuff lately. Finally, I'm gonna go with Intel. For the processor, I'm gonna use an i9-10850K. It's 10 cores, 20 threads that turbos up to 5.2 gigahertz. For the RAM, I'm using 2 8GB sticks of the G.Skill Trident Z. It's the non-RGB version at 3200 megahertz. For cooling, I'm going with EK Waterblock's all-in-one liquid cooler. It's a 240 mil digital RGB. For the graphics card, we're going with an Asus ROG STRIX RTX 3070. This is a 2.9 slot beast of a card. For storage, I'm using a crucial 1 terabyte NVMe M.2 SSD. For the motherboard, I'm going to use an MSI Z490 Tomahawk. This is an EVGA Supernova 650 GM. It's an 80 plus gold SFX power supply. Now for my 2 little side things that I wanted to use for this, I have never used custom braided cables yet, so I finally ordered some cable extensions from Cable Mod. They're just standard black and white, regular extensions. They're not full sleeve cables or anything like that. They just plug into the power supply, and I think it really just adds that little bit of pop. And then I finally got my hands on some Lian Li Uni Fans which I know people have been doing builds with these things a lot lately, and there's good reason for these. If you don't know about them or haven't seen them, the idea behind the Uni Fans is it gives you 3 fans in a kit, and you have an attachment piece that goes onto it, so you can either individually mount them, say you want to mount it in the back of the case or one in the top of the case, you can still mount them singularly. But if you decide to mount them in a channel, say all 3 fans along the top here like I'm gonna do, they actually snap together and then you just screw them in, and they have an electronic touchpad to them, and that will feed your power and your RGB lighting and all that stuff through the fans. So I've been waiting for these fans. I've been waiting for my cable mod cable extensions. I finally got a power supply that can fit in this case. Let's put this thing together and see how it turns out. Well, here we are. The build is done. As you can see, everything looks great. It turned out awesome. I love the case. I really do. Some of the notes that I came down with, I wrote down as I was going, and I'm just going to give it all to you. That way, if you buy the case or you're looking to buy the case, these are things you can look out for before you do your build. Save the power supply till last. I put my power supply in first. As you saw from the video, I removed it 4 times. It's just in a weird, awkward spot, and when you're cable managing, it just gets in the way. So I found it best just to take it out that final time. I did everything that I needed to do, routing cables and all that, and then I finally put it in. Speaking of the power supply, the EPS connector for your CPU up here is a pain in the butt with an ATX motherboard. The ATX motherboard is so tall, it fills the entire case. Like I said, this is an ITX case, but this is an ATX motherboard fitting in that case. Like I said, this is my first time using these custom braided cables from Cable Mod. They're great. The extensions are awesome. In fact, I think you need them because another downside to this thing, SFX power supplies, which is what this requires, have really short cables. If you're using an ATX motherboard, I don't think the cables would reach where I needed them to go. because I used the cable mod cables, they're extensions, and they gave me that little extra space. So if you're gonna use the case, either use custom cables with custom lengths or cable extensions. Obviously it makes it look better anyways. But as far as my first time using them, I really like how they turned out. I think it looks awesome. The issue with it is you have to train the cables. These little cable combs are designed to do that. It really wanted to fight me trying to mold it in there. I mean, these are like a nylon sleeving, so it's really tight. And then last thing to it is these Uni Fans. These things are awesome. I actually am gonna do an entire video just on the fans. So if you have any questions or anything about the RGB and how I connected things and how I got it all set up, I didn't even play with the Uni Fan software yet. I'll talk about that in another video. Just know the Uni Fans are great, and if you're building in this case, I highly recommend you use these fans. But that's really all there is to it. I couldn't put the glass on because the camera did not turn out well as far as the glare and as far as the lighting and everything like that. So I just left it off just for the sake of this. Finally, if you like any of the music that you heard today, I get all my music over on Epidemic Sound. It's a copyright-free website that has all kinds of different genres of music. You can play anything you want, and you can make a Spotify playlist with it. I'm not sponsored or anything. I'm not endorsed by them. I just really like their music, and if you want to check it out, you can click the link below in the description. One last note also, for those of you that follow the channel frequently, thank you so much for continuously coming back, commenting, subscribing, liking the videos. It really means a lot to me, and it's what keeps me going with this. The channel has passed 1,500 subscribers. I think that's awesome. I'm really excited about that. To think that 1,500 people want to hear what I have to say and actually click the button to say that they'd come back and watch another video, that's really something to me. So I do really appreciate it, and I just want to thank everyone that continues to come back. But I hope you enjoyed the build with the Lian Li O11 Dynamic Mini. And as I always say, I'm Danny with Danny's Tech Channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
So I might as well sleep with the doors unlocked. Ooh, ooh.